Shri N. Ramanuja, Chairman, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Shri Satabdhani, Dr. R. Ganesh, Director, K. Munshi Institute of Performing Arts, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Professor V. Kannan, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, Shri Madhu Pandit Das, President of the ISKCON Institutions, Bangalore, Shri K. G. Raghavan, Honorary Secretary, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, distinguished scholars and esteemed invitees. Whenever we discuss any scriptures which are practically of religions, we always go with a sublime attitude to the religion. And India is famous for that. There is no manner of doubt, and everybody agrees in the world that India is one of the oldest civilizations, and a great literature existed in India thousands of years ago. Chinese and Indians perhaps are the two great civilizations which have survived all upheavals of history. And we had relations. Recently, the Minister of External Affairs came here, and I discussed with him how Chinese benefited from India when Faiyan and Huan Sang, they came to Nalanda for learning. And he was beholden to that statement. That is why I request our scholars in India that we should not mix the literature which our scriptures have produced. Hinduism exists on a vast reservoir of knowledge, and this word actually is not found in any shastras. Either there is Sanatan Dharma or Vedic Dharma or anything, but there is nothing like Hindu Dharma. In any scripture, I can challenge everybody, it is either Sanatan or this. There are two civilizations living in India now. One is the Aryan civilization. Without dispute, Aryans belong to India and the surroundings of India. Whenever we do puja or archana, we say, Aryavarte Bharat Khande, Jambu Dvipe. Delhi is the Jambu Dvipe. So they are old names of our important places. So Aryavart is one philosophy and one civilization, and this area where we live in Karnataka and Kerala, as well as in Andhra and in Tamil Nadu also, they are Dravidians, and they both are oldest civilizations and similarities of ideas. One is Indus civilization, particularly near Indus Valley. Excavations in British days, Mohenjo-daro and adjoining area, Hadappans, they have confirmed this. And our Telugu language itself is a classical language, and Kannada is equally a powerful language, but 50-60% of it is Sanskrit. And Malayalam also, but Tamil is another classical language. They have got Tirukurals. They don't have Vedas. They call it Kurals. And I was given these Tirukurals by Paramachari in Kanchi when I used to go to him as a lawyer. So these are two powerful civilizations which has merged, and merged so powerfully that there is no difference between our cultures. Today, you can't isolate Kannada with any part of India because your literature is so powerful. I belong to Haridas Parampara. My family believes in Haridas Parampara. There is another Parampara, Raghavendra Swami's much, and all this. It's a vast knowledge. So this is a vast ocean of knowledge, and we must understand it properly. Vedas are ancient because they were not man-made. Nobody can say that so-and-so made the Vedas. These are Shrutis. Shruti from Shruti, the principle says they are the basis on which Vyas Rishi compiles them in 4 volumes of Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Athar Veda. And subject-wise, if you carefully read all Vedas, fortunately the Arya Samaj in our country kept those volumes as they are available today, and they are selling it in very cheap publications to ordinary people. Read, every mantra, every part of Vedas is ascribed to one Rishi. His name is given in that compilation. So and so Rishi gave this part of Vedas. So and so gave this part of Vedas. Not Bharadwaj alone. There are thousands of Rishis. And this is the great fortune of our country, that we are a country of Rishis and Munis and saints and philosophers. This is not so in the West. There are two philosophies in the world, and everybody vouchsafe, Britishers in Harvard or in England or in Oxford, in Cambridge, they never knew about what India is. They thought India is a backward country, we can enslave it. But how, after centuries of slavery, we emerged victorious? Gandhiji. So I must tell you, any scholar who speaks on Vedas must know this, that Vedas were compiled by Vedvyas. His Rishi was known as the Vyas Rishi. He compiled Vedas, therefore he was called Vedvyas later on. There is no manner of dispute. So Vedvyas compiled them in such a state that first part of the Vedas are Brahmanas. That is Karmakanda. Those people who do puja, archana, or Brahmins particularly, they are called Brahmanas only because they do this ritualistic part of this, the Karamkand part of this. Most important part of Vedas is the Brahmagyan, is the spiritual knowledge, which is the mystic knowledge which India has produced of the highest order. And that Brahmagyan is the Upanishad or Aranyakas part of it. Upanishad is the core of Vedas because it is the highest knowledge which we get. And nowhere in the world such a literature exists. Because the materialistic outlook of the world, mostly people prefer. They say, eat, drink and be merry, tomorrow you die. And in India also there was a Charvak philosophy and so. But our Sat Darshan, the six philosophies which India has practiced, they give preference to the Vedic and Upanishadic thought. And people who have known all this, they have put the Vedic philosophy in a correct perspective. I personally, I have made a lot of studies here as well as in foreign countries, how they got the knowledge. The Vedas were unknown to the West. They reached through the Persian translation of the Vedas by Dara Shikoh. He sat in Banaras and translated Vedas into Persian. And the first chair was launched in France. And Schopenhauer, one of the greatest philosophers of French scholar, he set the first Sanskrit chair in France. Similarly, in Germany, they started teaching of Sanskrit. Then Oxford, Max Muller from Germany went and taught in Oxford the Indian philosophy. And they told the ICS people who were coming to India to govern this country that India is not just a old rustic country, it's a very powerful civilization and you will see many things. So William Jones and 2-3 other civil servants came to Calcutta in East India Company and they tried to discover what is India. So they translated several books, Upanishads and all this, and they found this is unprecedented knowledge which exists in India. And they formed the Asia Society in Calcutta. Through that, they sent the literature to the rest of the world. And personally, I personally see that why it could not happen. It could not happen because after a certain age, India faced several upheavals in history, and our history was not properly written by anybody, unless Dr. Munshi and his colleagues thought of this your history published by Vidya Bhavan. You will not find all commentator Hevel or other people whom I read extensively, they say Aryans migrated to India. I have traveled all over the world to see where are that place where Aryans were living. The only one place I found was that original Aryans could be located was near Iran. And they were these Parsis who have come to India. They did not convert themselves. They traveled to Gujarat, Navsari, and they wanted to live in India. They said, we belong to your way of thinking. And they were allowed to live in Navsari, and now they are occupying that area, Bombay and Gujarat area. So they are fire worshippers. They worship the fire, God of fire. We also are worshippers of the fire. All our rituals are held at Agni. So there are similarity of the Vedas. But when I read Vedas extensively, every part of it, I find we are identified with the entire environment of India. Our mountains, our rivers, our cities, and so many things, they fit in our system. So I firmly believe that Aryans were Indians, ancient times, because they were rishis. Nobody except rishis and munis elsewhere. They say, we get philosophers. Then I traveled to the Greek. There were philosophers at one island. There is a Miletus island in Greek, where I went there, where this Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and all these, they were born in around that area. They knew nothing about the origin or how the human beings are born or things are born. They were just imagining whether by moisture or by this or by air or by water things are created. India answers all these questions in the Vedic literature. Panchbhut, what are the 5 elements by which the humanity is constituted. But before that, if you see these things, they are not relevant. Now, science and technology became so powerful in the West that they never accepted anything spiritual. The difference between East and West is they are far more materialistic, far more greedy, which India does not. India has attached importance to spirituality. And that is the privilege of India, that our saints and seers are sannyasis. In India, even today, whatever fall we may experience today in our life, but even today, people who sacrifice are respected. So rishis and munis, they were gurus, and gurus who used to teach students all the dharma and all make them worthy of living in the world. They were respected gurus. Whether you see any kingdom, the guru was given the most important place. So this is where nobody can dispute, any person in India, that we have 4 stages of life prescribed by Vedas. First is dharma. The second is artha and kam. And third is vanprasth and then sannyas. These are 4 stages which our ancestors who were Prakandi Pandit of Kashi, they used to say these are the 4 purusharths of life. You must remain a brahmacharya for 25 years and do your education in a Gurukul. We had Gurukuls. I am a student of a Gurukul. And we have learned Sanskrit from our birth. It's not that we got as part of education. And then we used to study regularly under the guidance of Guru, and we used to pray all this. And then when I became 25 years ago, age of age, my Guru, my own grandfather, he was the principal of that Gurukul. He told me that now you are 25 years of age and you are a lawyer. Now I direct you to join the Grihastha Ashram. And exact words I can repeat before this audience. हंसराज, मैं तुम्हें आदेश देता हूँ कि तुम अब तुम्हारा ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम खत्म हो गया है, अब तुम गृहस्थ आश्रम में प्रवेश करो. He named my wife that so and so, daughter of so and so, you have to marry. And that was an order. I never saw my wife, so that was an order. And that was an order. I touched his feet and went for the marriage. And I married a girl whom I never seen. And that was the tradition of Vedas. Guru Shishya Parampara. If India does not remember the Guru Shishya Parampara, where are Vedas? Vedas are all transmission of knowledge directly by the Guru to the Shishya. You read all the Upanishad, they start with a prayer. And the prayer is that our thoughts be common, that there be proper communication between an equilibrium of thoughts. All these are very high principles, and they have been followed in India. So the Guru gives you direction to enter the Grihastha ashram, and this is the most auspicious thing in one's life. When you enter into marriage with a girl, you take certain vows. There are certain promises made. Nobody remembers these days those days. But they are very important. That I shall respect you, I shall consult you, and I will not insult your parents or your relations. You will be my Ardhangini. All these kind of things, they are in our culture and in our mandate of our society. They were part of Vedas. If you just read Attariya Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find a complete code for students. If you don't remember, then what is the use of talking of Vedas? Every convocation which I address, I see that these commandments of Taittiriya Upanishad are repeated. First is the Matri Deva Bhav. Have you understood the import of Matri Deva Bhav? It is something brilliant. Why Matri Deva Bhav? Because Prithvi is the mother of the whole universe. Prithvi Sukta in Atharvaveda, it says so, that every person who is born is the son of this Mother Earth. Same is repeated in Isha Upanishad. Isha Vasvedam Sarvam Yat Kinchan Jagatyam Jagat. This word or any other word, Patal or this, everything is manifested or pervaded by the one God, Isha, Ishwar. And Teni Tikchitene Bhundita Magarda Kasta Savedhanam. The destiny gives you whatever is your ordained. You cannot covet the wealth of others. You have to be satisfied. It's a great, great mantra. And Gandhiji accepted this very version in his freedom movement. I read yesterday only to prepare myself for this conference. So what was the mantra of Gandhiji? He has explained Isha Upanishad, that Isha Upanishad tells me that the whole earth belongs to Gopalji. He named Gopalji, that means Krishnji. And if whole world belongs to Gopalji, then where is the dispute about it? So I am a universal man. And my religion is truth and non-violence. This was his answer. A great saint that India got for, because he accepted this philosophy. So we have that broad vision. What it means, Mr. Raghavan, when Munshiji chose this, Ano Bhadra Karkantu Yantu Vishwata. We have always been, from the very day of India's existence, open-minded people, large-hearted people. We never discriminated between one person and another person. Rabindranath Tagore himself repeated this in his own son, none shall be turned away from this vast sea of humanity that India is. So that is our greatness as well as a weakness. We have welcomed everybody, and India became a nestling place of all multiple religions in India. And we never insulted them, we tolerated them. And this assimilation of process and fusion of religion has made it a wonderful society today. And that is our success. But our weakness is sometimes we become intolerant to other people. If you are bright people, if you have strength of life, then you have to be tolerant. Religion tells only tolerance. And let me tell you, this Gita is a recreation of the Vedas. I wanted, because I've been a student of ISKCON for many years. In America also, they have ISKCON. They have got in other countries. Okay, why these people are taking this movement? It's exactly, if you read Gita and the four Vedas, you will find 100% repetition of the Vedas through Lord Krishna. And it is explained by Lord Krishna himself that knowledge had fallen down in between. With the revelation of Gita and Vedas, there was the difference of two yugas, Dwapar and Treta. And now we are in Kali Yuga. So this Bhagavad will explain what Kali Yuga is. I am a trustee of the Bhagavad Peeth in UP, Hastinapur. There it will explain what will happen in Kali Yuga. So it is a fact of life that the knowledge which was enshrined in Vedas had been forgotten. The entire Bhakti Kalin, medieval period, where all these bhakts went to Ram Bhakti and Krishna Bhakti, because we were not ruled by us. So they went in the service of Lord himself, that you liberate us sometime or the other. But even then, Tulsidas ji in Ramcharitmanas said, Sri Ramchandra ji, तुलसी मस्तक तब नवे जब धनुष बाण हो हाथ, शक्तिशाली देश होना चाहिए, तभी हम आपको मानेंगे. तो मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम को भी हम लोग भगवान का दर्जा दिया. और कृष्ण जी, बिकॉज दे ब्रॉट बैक द नॉलेज विच वी हैड लॉस्ट. सो गीता is an essence of entire volumes of Vedas. That is why today it is easier to know Vedas by reading Gita. The whole metaphysics, what does Gita tell you? It says, your Atma, the soul, is eternal, ajo nityo sasvato. The soul alone is ajo nityo sasvato, jatas samritu dhrum. The man is born, he is bound to die. So he exhorts Arjun to do your duty. Do your duty as a warrior, otherwise you will be called as a coward. And that exhortation, then Lord Krishna shows that everything is within me. The message of Gita also is the same. The man who sees me in other pranis and other pranis in me, he is the real knowledge and knower. So this is what Vedas also say, Kathopanishad also says the same thing, that the Lord exists in everybody. And therefore you must see everybody in the Lord. And then ultimately Upanishads say that God resides in human harm, hridayam tisthati, within the cave of your heart, the God resides. And there is no manner of doubt that if your heart stops functioning, there is nothing remains in the body. So God is within your heart. There is a flicker which we call Jyoti Swarup, or flicker, or the electricity generated within the heart. That is the atom of God within everything. That keeps you working. Yesterday I need a paper from United States. They said besides the five senses of human body, there is something else within the human body. There is something else in the human body which coordinates of working of your whole senses and gives you the sense of discretion and sense of knowledge. That is God. Shreyascha, Preyascha, Manushamed. They are both bad and good within human body, and they direct you. Within there is a power which says, don't follow this bad path, follow the good path. And that is what the rishis could do. They sat in the period of yore, saw the twisted truth and nature in Princeton purity, and produced Vedas, and they were repeated by the Guru Shishya Parampara for thousands of years until this printing and writing came and they were codified. So Vedas cannot be equated with Puranas. Puranas are later literature, and Vedas are dominated by Lord Brahma, the creator of the earth, Prajapati, Hiranyagarbha, all names. But Puranas are dominated by Lord Vishnu, the second power of the same supreme reality, the sustainer. So people like wealth, people like prosperity, people like promotions, all these, they always go before Lord Purana. Vishnu, give me this, give me that. That is all taking. But to know things, you have to go to Mother Sharda or Lord Brahma to give you knowledge. So knowledge is a great purifier. And that knowledge you must understand in real sense. Wherever there is a knowledge, there is a prosperity. If you are a good lawyer, you must know the law. If you are a good engineer, you must know the ultimate technology. So if you are an administrator, you must be firm in your commitment, the constitutional goal. Therefore, the Vedic principles are eternal. And eternal, only two things in life, which I personally see. One is your own soul within you. It is eternal. You may die, soul will go and answer to the Supreme Soul. And if the other is the God Himself. He never dies. That is accepted view of all scriptures. And this later scriptures modification in the literature in Hinduism came after other religions came to us. The Muslim brought Prophet Muhammad with them. And they say he is the messenger of God. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He is the Rasul. And Jesus Christ brought another philosophy that I am son of the God. And I have come to redeem the world by throwing ignorance out of the world. So these Dharmachari or all these people, they are brilliant people. They also adopted the Avatarvadi in our worship. And Gita answers this question. Paritrananam sadhunam vinashayaccha duskritam dharma stapna arthe sambhavami yuge yuge. So answer is there in our country also. It is not that there are no prophets. God Himself takes birth in the form of human beings. And that is how the Ram Bhakti and Krishna Bhakti came. But earlier in the Vedas, the Prajapati, creation, and all this was done by him, and sustainer is Lord Vishnu. This is Puranic literature. There are very important 8 or 9 Puranas. They are Puranic stories, maintaining the principles of the Vedas, but for a common man, explaining them in other ways. And then there are commentaries, and then finally these are epics. Ramayana and Mahabharata are not a part of Vedas. They are epics, our history. Ram was a ruler of Ayodhya. Is there any doubt about it? And so Lord Krishna from Dwarkadhish, the whole thing, I personally gone to Dwarkadhish. There is a powerful area of Lord Krishna where he came from, and then Mathura, Vrindavan. All these, they are a part of our Indian culture and heritage. But these are avatars who came to redeem us and save the humanity. And many such things will happen. And according to me, the knowledge of Vedas is eternal. It never changes. It's infallible because it emerged from Shruti. And we should try to understand it, that learn 25 years of good knowledge. Any student. I must today emphasize on thing that these 2 Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad, is only meant for the student life, brahmacharya life. And that gives you complete commandment how a good student should go about and become perfect. Now in American university, I visited 99% universities of United States, from Harvard to Berkeley, Berkeley to Los Angeles, and then to right up to Hawaii. The tradition of American university is just like our Gurukulas. The student and teachers, they are father and son, and they maintain their relation throughout their life. 5 professors. Mark Galanter is a very senior professor. I met him only for 1 month here. And he comes regularly to India and phones me. They keep their contact and remember each other. Recently, one of our judges, Dakshu Bhandari, he was from Northwest University and a student. Now he is sitting our representative in Hague, in the Hague Court of International Court at Hague. He is being invited by his teachers as a alumni, and he is being showered the highest praise by the teachers in America, because they say he is our student, and he has great privilege to accept it and going there. We are not doing the same thing in this. We don't show any respect to our gurus. So gurus have become irrelevant. So what kind of Shishya we are producing, you know it very well. So these are our problems. So Vedic religion can restore the Indianism on us, and there is something in our culture. Even Allama Iqbal, he wrote about सारे जहाँ से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा, he said 2 lines. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. It is said in Urdu. There is something in India by which we have not vanished. Although सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जावा हमारा. We have faced that type of situation, but yet we have survived. It is because of the foundation of Vedas and our principles of Vedas that we have not vanished. So that is why I say that there should be a regular study of Vedas, and you can't study Vedas unless you study Sanskrit. On philology, there is no manner of doubt the Vedas were written in Prakrit. Vedic Prakrit was the bhasha of Vedas, and the shlokas were very big. Thereafter Panini, a great scholar, he gave the grammar of the Sanskrit, and the Prakrit was sanctified by the Panini's grammars, and that is why it is called Sanskrit. Vedic Prakrit and Pali. Pali was a language when Buddhism and Jainism was here in it. It's just similar to Prakrit. Thereafter Sanskrit took over, and they made it very easy to understand with the grammar. With the grammar, Sanskrit has become the best language in the world, and there is also a unanimity amongst the philologists, the Germans, Iranians, Russians, that Sanskrit is the mother of all languages. If you just send it, all languages. Now, the Persians derive great satisfaction to say that yes, our Persian originated from the Sanskrit. They call the daughter in Persian the Dukhtar. Dukhtar in Persian, in Sanskrit it is Duhetri. So the philology proves that there is similarity of word. And Pidar, the mother, and Pitri is in Sanskrit. So there is absolute similarity in phonetics. So we must understand that our language has fed on rituals by mantras and all this. Mantras all right, but beyond your Karamkand, you have to be a powerful philosopher like Vivekananda. He, with his whole study of Upanishad, he shook the world. And what is he said? Uttista Jagrata. Utho, Jago. And that exhortation made such a powerful impact in America. I saw there are 2 people who are known, Vivekananda and Yogananda in Los Angeles. So that is what makes us strong. And K.M. Munshi, really Dr. K.M. Munshi, whom I know so intimately, he did a marvelous job in India to revive our Vedic philosophy through the other scientific knowledge. He created institutions where not only Vedas and Upanishads and Puranas are being reminded. He also brought science, technology, and various other languages. In Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in New Delhi, there was classes of French and Germans and Italians, every language, and you could learn any language. We have to become now cosmopolitan, because by your own philosophy, by your own knowledge, Indians have convinced abroad that we deserve attention, we are meritorious, but not by hypocrisy, that our ancestors were great, so you accept us as great. No. They will argue with you. I have argued with Americans about India in my own field of law, and I saw to it that they are convinced that Indian judicial system, which our founding father is one of the greatest system in power of judicial review of all actions of the executive and legislature, and they accepted, and they are having a direct communication with our judiciary. So were the Britishers. They said, our judges speak the language of law. I said, not only your judges, our judges also speak the same. Ultimately, you will be surprised to know, I said, there is no separation of legislature from the judiciary in England. So last 2 years, when I was law minister, they separated their House of Lords and Supreme Court of India. So India can teach the rest of the world, provided you gain knowledge as our saints and seers and philosophers have given you. And yet, what Rabindranath Tagore, Ram Mohan Roy, so many scholars from India, they blended with the latest science and technology. So that is what I feel the purpose of this discussion should be. You can't travel to a dark tunnel and have a bright future. You will have to go to a bright future with confidence and confidence that we have a powerful republic in India. Our founding fathers, Gandhis, all Shishyas, all people who worked in, they gave a beautiful democracy. It's for us now to maintain it and maintain with our tradition by Guru Shishya Parampara. First job is to respect your gurus, your elders. अभी कोई माँ बाप के पैर नहीं छूता. हमको तो सुबह ये सिखाया जाता था कि बड़ों के पैर छुओ, आदर करो. माँ को बुढ़ापे में याद नहीं करता कोई भी. वो कहते हैं ठीक है, होगी जैसे. माँ जन्म देती है आपको. माँ अपने बॉडी से जन्म देती है आपको. अपना खाना भी नहीं आप खुद खाती बच्चे को और खड़ा करती है, सब कुछ सिखाती है. आप ओल्ड एज में मदर पेरेंट्स को कोई परवाह नहीं करता. ये हमारे उपनिषदों का ज्ञान है. मातृदेव भव इज द फर्स्ट आइटम ऑफ विच इज टॉट इन आवर उपनिषद. So I thank you for organizing this, but I make a request. Let us not mix the British or Western philosopher with our own philosophy. They are quite different people. They have ruled the world, kept people slaves for years and centuries, exploited it. There have been world wars. There have been barbarous victories in so many things. We have never gone out and conquered any part of the world. We are peace-living people. We produced Gautam Buddha, Bhagwan Mahavir, and Guru Nanak Dev, and Adi Shankara, Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya. We only adjust and blend Advait Vedanta with Visistadvaitvad or Dvaitvad, only to explain to the people. Otherwise, there is no difference between the Vedic philosophy as such. This is my view, and I am yet making certain whether what I say is true or not. Thank you.